This is it, the letter that carries her husband's final words. But every revelation demands a choice between love and fear. Stay with me until the very end, because what unfolds next will change everything. Sometimes, the heaviest envelopes don't just hold paper. They hold love, secrets, and unfinished goodbyes. If you've walked with Claire through this journey, you cannot miss this final chapter. And if you're just joining us, subscribe now, because this is where the story ends and where something greater begins. She exhaled. She touched the letter. It opened into her husband's scrawl, scanned faithfully, each loop and cross a touch of him. Dear Claire, it began, and then, I hate that you are reading this. If you are, I failed in the first duty I appointed myself when I met you, which was to stay. He had never said it that way. He had joked about durability. He had shown up to the midnight feedings. He had replaced air filters on time and folded laundry with an earnest clumsiness that made the twins laugh. But he had never said stay like that. The rest of the letter did not talk about fear. It talked about room, how grief needed it, how practicalities shrink it, how he had wanted to push back against the shrinkage with something as unarguable as math. I kept this private not because I didn't trust you, he wrote, but because I didn't trust my luck. Forgive me the surprise. Use it to make space around you when other people's certainties crowd too close. She read it once, then again, moving her thumb to scroll, watching his name bloom at the end like a small flag. She felt something loosen in her chest that had been bound so tightly since the hospital that she had assumed it was bone. She looked at the house. She could, she realized, ask Daniel to dispatch a courier to the porch this minute with a letter on firm letterhead that would inform Agnes and Leonard that any claims they were asserting were to be paused until counsel had reviewed the estate documents. She could say, kindly or not, please step away from the doorway. She could assemble a posture that would make power visible. She did not want to perform it in the rain. She did not want this to be a play. Instead, she started the car. The engine clicked from cold to alive. She pulled the umbrella from the passenger side floor, opened the door, and stepped out, letting the rain kiss her forehead, the fine hairs at her temples. She walked back to the porch with the envelope in hand. Agnes watched her approach as one might watch an unexpected witness. Alert, chest lifted. I've received a call, Claire said, voice low and even. From my husband's attorney. She did not use the word trust or the word number. She did not need to. She held up the letter, his letter, as if it were a talisman only she could see. I'm going to take the children to breakfast now. Please leave, she added, not because she sought confrontation, but because some mornings must be given their edges. Agnes's mouth opened, then recalibrated. Leonard, who had an ear for tone, heard the plain authority in Claire's sentence and decided that the rain had gone on long enough for any decent errand. Come on, he murmured to his wife. Not surrender, merely an adjustment. We'll follow up in writing. In writing, Agnes echoed, the phrase of familiar cushion. She cast one last glance into the entryway, as if she might literally see order assert itself if she stared hard enough. She shut the door. The latch clicked with the same sound it had made thousands of times as family came and went. It meant nothing and also everything. Under the drizzle, Claire stood a moment longer. She was not triumphant. Triumph is loud, and the morning did not want noise. She was, instead, oriented. Grief still stood beside her, unmovable. But now there was something else with the shape of possibility, quiet, exact, ready to be used. She returned to the car, shook the umbrella dry with a firm flick, folded it, set it on the passenger seat, and glanced in the rearview mirror at the twins. Pancakes, she asked, because the next minute required a small noun. They nodded, relief brightening their faces with the suddenness of a lamp switched on. She pulled away from the curb. The street pooled and offered back to the sky the smeared reflection of trees and windows and the slow pulse of a crosswalk signal. She did not look at the house again. She drove to the corner and paused at the stop sign where she had paused so many times with groceries in the trunk and a busy song on the radio and a schedule humming in her head. Now she had none of that. She had this and the road and the two breathing bodies behind her and an email marked completed. Third-person omniscience, if it must name the moment, will not call it reversal. Reversal suggests theater, a flip of a card for applause. It will call it alignment, the careful setting into place of intentions made in private, the quiet correction of an imbalance composed of polite sentences and legalese. It will note that Agnes and Leonard, returning to their car, did not speak immediately because they were each busy rewriting their understanding of the morning. It will notice a neighbor lift a blind and then lower it, reassured that whatever had happened had not produced screaming. It will observe Daniel at his desk watching the e-signed document arrive and feeling the relief of a task moving its first inch. It will hold Claire's husband, in memory not as a saint. He had left socks under the sofa with the carelessness of a joyful mind, but as a man who had done a thing that mattered because it would be used precisely now. At the bottom of the block, the rain softened. Claire turned left. The wipers traced their metronome. The children began to whisper to each other about syrup. The car's warm air licked moisture from the windshield and drew the morning's chill out of their clothes. Claire's phone buzzed once more with a new email. The subject line read, "Confirmation, account active." She did not open it yet. She could afford, at last, to let a confirmation wait while she made a small decision about whether to order strawberries or blueberries for the pancakes. The large decision had been made on a kitchen table under lamplight weeks ago by a person who had loved her and had thought beyond himself. All she needed to do was steer through the wet street, stop at the light, and move forward when it turned green. Back at the house, rainwater ran along the gutters and spilled, manageable, to the ground. The opal on Agnes's hand glinted, then dulled, then glinted again as she adjusted the umbrella angle. She felt, against her will, the smallest wash of gratitude that Claire had not fought, that there had been no raised voices. She did not yet know what she would make of the phrase, "my husband's attorney," but she filed it in the column labeled "to be considered." Leonard unlocked the car, shook out the umbrella, and folded it easily, a man who appreciates tools that close neatly when asked. None of this was revenge. Revenge would have made a scene, demanded forfeiture of face. This was something less decorative and more durable. Enough. Enough room. Enough time. Enough assurance that the morning did not end at the door. Claire turned onto the main road and felt the smallest lift in her sternum that wasn't joy and wasn't hope, but shared a border with both. The twins began to sing under their breath, a melody they made up as they went. The lawyer's letter sat quiet in her inbox like a hand on her back, steadying, not pushing. Ahead, the diner's neon sign bled its red into the wet air. She flicked on her turn signal. The sound of it, tick, tick, was a reasonable sound, an ordinary sound, and the morning, though it had been anything but ordinary, allowed it. Between raindrops, the day built itself. Nothing was fixed, nothing is ever fixed, but the ground under the wheels felt sound. When she parked and reached back to unbuckle the twins, the small fingers that reached for hers were warm. Inside, a bell would chime, silver as a spoon. Someone would hand them a laminated menu. Someone would pour coffee. She would answer the phone once more from Daniel, she suspected, and say, "Yes. Thank you. I have the confirmation." And he would say, "Take your time," and the word time would finally mean something other than Payne's metronome. As they dashed across the sidewalk under the umbrella, their shoes kicking up commas of water, Claire glanced down at the eviction notice still on the passenger seat. She did not pick it up. It could stay there a while, demoted to paper, until it became only a fact of a morning that had chosen a different ending than the one written for it. The gates to any estate, literal or otherwise, would open later. For now, she opened a door with a bell and let the warm air meet her at once, and that was enough. In the end, wealth wasn't the secret. Love was. And love, real love, outlives every storm. Claire didn't need revenge. She had something far more powerful, the life her husband had secretly secured for her. If this story moved you, let it stay with you, but also let it reach someone else who needs it. Share this video, subscribe for more stories, and remember, love always outlives the storm.